Welcome to the Calgary Sessions. This is episode number 29. I'm your host, Jeff Humphreys. Today's guest is going to be a really cool conversation with another amazing Calgarian. Him and I go way back through some mutual friends, the Cowie family. So this will be a really cool conversation. Introduce yourself, name, and what you're up to.
Hello, Calgary. I'm Kyle Shewfelt, Olympic gymnast, Olympic champion, and now I own a gymnastics center here in the city of Calgary, and I also do some broadcasting work with CBC Sports.
Yeah, so the last games you were on.
Yeah, so I've actually
Was it remote or were you there?
Mm-hmm. See, we did our job. You don't know where we were. We, for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, that actually happened in 2021, we called it from Toronto. So yeah, only a very small team actually went to the Tokyo Games.
Yep.
And yeah, we were calling overnight, so doing the vampire shift. And yeah, it was a very interesting experience, but thank goodness for technology.
Well, yeah, so you were doing that, you're doing the vampire shift and then running your business.
Yes, I've got an amazing team.
Good.
Which I think when I first opened the business, that's what one of my mentors told me was hire a team around you that you can trust.
Yep.
And I have an amazing team. So I was able to really step away from the business and they
took it.
Yeah, they took it and
cool.
ran with it, and I got to nap in the afternoon and
Glamorous, eh?
Right, and talk about gymnastics all night. It's basically the perfect day for me. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna have so many cool stories. What I like to do on this show is let the guests go back as far as they want to go. So, thinking about childhood, your upbringing, what you're interested in, your inspiration back then. Sports obviously a big piece, but yeah, I'd like just go back to a point in time where you start. The lights were coming on of like, oh, this is. I grew up in this neighborhood. I was doing these things. So yeah, take it back as far as you want to go.
Take it back. So it's actually funny that you asked this question because I have a daughter of my own. She's going to be 6 here coming up in January. And I'm thinking about her life so much because I remember my life around 5, 6. Like I don't really remember much before that. Mm-hmm. So these are really that formational years. Like these are the years that really set that foundation for the activities you love, the things that you're exposed to are kind of the direction that you start heading in,
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was a hockey player. He grew up in Manitoba and he played for the Brandon Wheat Kings.
Oh, no way. He's like...
Yeah, he was a pretty good hockey player.
Playing the dub.
Didn't wear a helmet.
That's
He's
real.
like, yeah, you know.
Animal.
He's an animal. Yeah, right. Got a few concussions. But my parents met in Calgary. And then when I was born, I have an older brother as well. So we obviously were hockey kids, right?
Yep.
We learned to skate when we were little, and
Yep.
my earliest memories are at the rink, at the community rink.
Which one?
Ectas. So I grew up in Dover, and my parents still live in the same house that I grew up in.
Man.
Yeah, it's been renovated since. They've done some work and expanding to make it a little more open concept. But yeah, same house. And like I was a Dover kid and my parents were super involved with the community. My dad sat on the board for ECTAS and I always remember my parents being really involved in the activities that we did. They weren't just people that showed up and dropped us off. They were people that were there and were really connected to the community. So I was a rink rat. I was running around and eating Denver sandwiches up at the lobby when my brother was playing hockey. And I remember being that little kid that was playing all the video games.
Yep.
And my parents had those tickets that you would buy and they'd have the cherries and the oranges and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember, and people could smoke inside of the lounge, and there was like a smoking section. Yeah, back in the day. But gymnastics for me really started to take off when I was 6 years old. That's when I started gymnastics, and I was doing cartwheels around the living room. My brother taught me how to do one in our backyard, and I was upside down all the time.
How'd you get introduced to it? Like, how do you, it's, Dad plays hockey, so obviously it makes sense that you're introduced to hockey. You kind of do your thing. Where does the gymnastics introduction come from?
Well, my parents had this rule that we had to be exposed to a lot of things. So we did swimming and we did baseball and we did soccer and we did hockey and we did all the things. But gymnastics wasn't something they put me in. But gymnastics was something that I just started to do. So I always say, like, I think gymnastics kind of found me. I just loved being upside down.
So you're just messing around.
Just messing around.
Just being agile and going inverted and just doing all these things.
Exactly. And we had a neighbor who lived across the street. Her name was Lana. Her name is Lana. And she did gymnastics at the Outdoor Gymnastics Club here in Calgary. And my mom inquired to her mom and flipped through the phone book and it was like, there it is, Altador. And so she phoned the gym and said, I have this crazy rambunctious 6-year-old kid who will not stop doing cartwheels around the living room and flips on the bed. And so she got me enrolled. And I started in the recreational program. And quite quickly, I think I had a real natural aptitude for it, and I loved it. And quite quickly, I got progressed into the competitive men's.
Like within a couple of years of
it was months, actually. Yeah. I did about 6 months of recreational programming.
Yep.
And then Kelly Manjack was the men's head coach at the time, and my coach, his name was Brian, and Brian said to Kelly, "I've got this kid, and you need to see him."
Mm.
And so Kelly came over, walked over to the other side of the gym.
You can.
Oh, I remember the moment. I remember the jacket. I remember the way the gym smelt on that day. I remember him, his presence. Yeah. And so he walked over and he was like, "Hey, little buddy, like, what can you do?"
Mm-hmm.
And I went blunk into the splits, and he's like, "Oh, you're flexible." And he's lifted me up to a bar. He's like, "What, can you do a chin up?" And so I like kind of kicked my legs, and he's like, "Oh, put your legs together. Be like a gymnast. Gymnasts have nice form." And then I did 7 chin ups, and he's like, "Oh, you're strong." He's like, "What can you do on the floor?" And so I taught myself a round off back handspring, and he's like, "Oh, and you're acrobatic too." He's like, "I need to go talk to your mom." So we walked out of the gym, and ever since that day, I progressed over to the competitive side of the gym, and Kelly was actually my coach for 16 years until Athens. Yeah.
How can you remember that? Why do you think you can remember those details? Like the sights and the sounds and all. Does that mean you found what you were supposed to be doing? Like,
I think so. I can remember the day of my Athens Olympic performance, like every moment. I can remember the temperature, and I can remember the humidity in the room. I can remember the chalk dust. I can remember the air, like the way that felt circulating around my ears, because I was so present in that moment. I wasn't distracted. I wasn't on social media.
Yep.
I was literally dialed into that moment.
Yep.
I had pulled back every single layer. And I think that's what it was for me as a little kid. I was so present because I was having so much joy, and I loved being in that moment. And so I was very present. You know, I wasn't wanting to be somewhere else. I was fully in that moment. And I think that's why I remember it.
Different than other pieces of your life, like at school, hockey, like once you're in the gym at all, like...
When I was playing hockey, I was thinking about the sour soothers that I'd get after it, right? Or waving at my grandma in the stands and trying to do forward rolls on the ice, right? I was distracted. I didn't really want to be there. I was just there. I didn't have that ingrained passion for it. It was just a thing that I did.
Yep.
But gymnastics was different.
Was your family surprised that you were like that into it at an early age, and they just kind of let you go, like enabled you to go down that path?
I was always the one driving the bus. You know, my parents were passengers, as was my coach, and they were there as supporters, and they changed the tires metaphorically and like put down the windows and do the repairs. But I was always in that driver's seat. It was always me that was leading the way. And my parents set such a wonderful example. Like now as a parent myself, I'm trying to let my daughter guide me. The things she has a natural tendency towards. She loves to sing. She loves to dance. She loves to be upside down as well. So I try to steer her towards those things, but I want to let her lead, because I've seen so many kids in sport that their parent wants it more than they do. And that just never leads to anything great.
Just burnout or just like disappointment.
Burnout, hatred, disappointment. The kid, it's a letdown. But when the kid's the one in charge, making the decisions, that always leads to something.
So when you're growing up, at a young age, you're in competitive gymnastics. So you kind of weave your way through elementary, junior high, high school. When does it become, after high school, when does it become like all encompassing?
It became all encompassing when I was actually in elementary school. High school, I was already full on the train. Like I went to my first Olympics when I was 18.
Oh.
And that was in Sydney. And
so,
I actually,
which is the year you graduated high school?
Well, should have been the year I graduated. Yes. I took a little detour. My sport and this opportunity was right in front of me. And I had parents that were supportive of that. And halfway through grade 11, I was at the National Sports School. And for a variety of reasons, I chose to leave. And it was mainly to focus on my gymnastics. It was also because there was an individual at the school who was really bullying me, and I didn't like being in that environment. That's a story for
Oh, yeah.
another time.
Yeah, totally.
I write about it in my book, but
which I want to check out.
right? But it was there. It was in front of me, and I had to chase the dream. I had to go after it. And my parents were fully supportive of that. And I think that's the coolest thing. They let me travel the world by myself when I was 17 years old. They're like, okay,
Good luck.
I went to Europe with my coach, and sometimes my coach wouldn't even come. I'd meet up with a teammate and their coach. So I once fell asleep at the London airport. I was waiting for a flight to Glasgow, and I fell asleep, and I slept for like 6 hours, and I completely missed my flight. Woke up, looked at someone. I was like, what time is it? They're like, it's 5 p.m. I'm like, shit, my flight went. And I had to figure that out, and I was 17. I had so many cool experiences, right? But yeah.
So grade 11, how many years is that before your games?
It was about a year and a half, 2 years, yeah.
And so in grade 10, were you already, was the Olympics on your radar? Like, were you was you going to make the team for sure?
So when I was a kid, the Olympics at 9 years old, that's when it was like, I'm going to be an Olympian.
Yep. Which one was it? Which was the
92 Olympics.
That was the first one you were...
The first one I watched on television.
Yeah, and you remember it. What do you remember from the 92?
I remember Jennifer Wood. She trained at my gymnastics club. And she was the first Albertan to ever qualify to the Olympic Games in gymnastics. So she was my first like real personal connection to the games. So I remember watching her compete and thinking, oh my gosh, she is an Olympian. And then I remember Mark Tewksbury winning at those games, and he was from Calgary. I was like, a Calgarian won? So that to me was like, that was a catalyst. I was on the fast track. That's what I really wanted. But as you go through and you're growing and you're going through puberty and you're changing and it gets hard and you don't want to do the sport and you're fighting with your coach and all that kind of tumultuous stuff that happens. During that period, there was times when I wanted to quit, but I never did because it was like a magnet. I just always had this Olympic dream inside. Did
you tell people you wanted to quit, or are you just kind of internalizing that as like, yeah, I'm close to...
I told my mom, I told my coach, I told my sports psychologist, like, I don't want to do this anymore, but they tried to allow me to be in charge, and they always said, never make a decision on a bad day. Like, you want to quit today because it's a bad day. You know, you got to go back tomorrow, and you have to give this a little more time, and if after that you want to quit, then you can. But it always was just a bad day, and things would turn around, right?
Yep.
But yeah, it was about grade 10, grade 11, when I knew that the Sydney Olympics were on the horizon, and I had an outside shot. Outside shot. Because I was still a junior level athlete. Right. I hadn't really proven myself internationally. I'd competed at different international meets as a kid in Hungary and in Austria, and done some international invitationals, but never really the big stuff. But in 98, I got an opportunity to compete at the World Youth Games, and that was in Moscow. And I was a junior level athlete. 4 Canadian men went. And at those championships, it's like the Youth Olympics, basically. I came second on the floor exercise. And I think that's where there was kind of a buzz starting, like, Kyle could maybe do something. And as an athlete, you can feel that. You can feel that expectation, and you can feel that, like, that the other people are watching you, and you can tell that they see something in you. You can just feel it.
And did you, when you feel that, what did you think? You're like, I got this? Like...
Well, it's scary. It's scary, but I knew I wanted to be one of the best. And it's like you kind of start peeling back the layers a bit. You start acting a bit more professional in the gym. You start being a bit more of a mentor. When you're having a bad day, you can't just kick the pommel horse anymore. You kind of see the kids are watching you. And I also really paid keen attention to what the top athletes were doing from Russia. I was watching their training. I'm watching their conditioning and watching their tenacity and the way that they would overcome the obstacles in training each day. And I'm like, okay, I need to do more of that. Like, I had to become more tough, physically and mentally. Yeah.
And so after those games, you finish second, you come back with a new focus. Like now the Olympics are like...
There's like a momentum. There's a motivation. You know, you can taste it a little bit. And it's almost like the snowball starts rolling down the hill, and it starts getting bigger and it starts gaining momentum, and you feel stronger and more powerful. And the goal, it's like it starts pulling you even harder. It's like this force. I can't explain it, but when you really want something and it's right there in front of you, you either go and get it or you run in the other direction. And I focused and went after it.
And everyone around you was just letting you drive, and you could just kind of make all the decisions you needed to get to that spot.
Yeah, mainly. Yeah, it was. I had kind of this rule within my family that we didn't really talk about that stuff. My parents, when I was 17, I went on the World Cup circuit. The Canadian, this is a bit of a long story, but the Canadian men's team ended up 18th at the 99 Worlds. So they didn't qualify a full team to the Olympics. Only the top 12 teams did, but they got 2 spots. So because they didn't qualify a team, instantly they were looking for 2 people that could make an impact. And so they chose me as a young junior. Like, okay, well, this guy maybe can do things at the Athens Olympics or at the Beijing Olympics. So let's give him a chance to try to qualify to this Olympics. He'll gain experience and maybe he can be a leader. And so at 17, they took a chance on me and they sent me around the world to these World Cups to try to earn a second spot to the Olympics. I had to meet a Canadian Olympic Committee standard. And I ended up placing top 8 at these meets. And then it was like, I placed top 8 at 3 of them. And then I came 3rd at one against the world's best. And I felt like I belonged. At first, I didn't. At my very first one, I walked in.
How nervous are you?
Oh my God, I walked into my first one and my idol, Alexei Nemov, was right there. I was like, my eyes got so big and I was so afraid. And I was shy. I was a bit shy. I'm not shy anymore in my life, but at that time, I wasn't going over to him and saying hi. I was like, holy shit, that's Alexei Nemov. But he came over to me and he shook my hand and he basically welcomed me because he knew my teammate Sasha. And he just made me feel welcome. And then when I started competing, I showed my talent, and I showed that I belonged. And I started to feel that too. Yeah.
And that just fuels it all. Like it just, the machine, like I said, the snowball just gets rolling. And
yes. And then you start dissecting your routine. You start looking at what the other people are doing, and you start looking back at your routines. We didn't have the access to video that we do now, but my coach would bring a video camera.
And the old school VHS.
Yeah, well, not the huge one that you bring in broadcasting school, but the one that the little one with the tape, and he'd video, and then we'd watch the routine over, and it's like, okay, you can make this a little bit better. Oh, hold your chest this way. Oh, your arm can be this way. Okay, on that landing. Oh, let's adjust this pass so that you can minimize the deductions. So then you start really playing that game of Tetris to try to put together the perfect routine.
So where's when you're on this circuit at 17, the games that are right there, they already happened? Like Sydney was happening?
Sydney was happening that September.
Okay.
And it was March when I started on the circuit. So they were, just less than a year away. And so you can kind of taste it. And everyone around you is building up towards that. The best athletes aren't their best in March, they're best in September, but you can start to feel their momentum as well. So everyone starts to get a little bit better.
And when you're on the road by yourself at a young age, you're competing at a high level. Is it stressful? Does it feel like you're in the right spot? Like what are you feeling when you're going through these things at that age?
It felt right.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
You just
the stress was there, certainly. But I had to learn how to be comfortable in the discomfort. There was I couldn't FaceTime my family or friends. I would have to go buy a calling card and find a phone and call my parents and get a 5-minute call in for the $20 or whatever it was. So you had to really rely on your teammates. You had to rely on your coach, and you had to build strong friendships and relationships with people from around the world. So we became a big global team. And in gymnastics, you aren't competing against other people. You're actually competing against yourself. It's you against yourself at the end of the day. You can have a great performance and still be 5th because the other people could be better. But there's nothing you can do to control them. You can't score goals against them, right? It's their routine. If they do it the best, then that's what they do. So there's this camaraderie that you just develop, and you start to talk through things with your friend from the Czech Republic on your bed in the hotel room while you're watching MTV, and oh man, I'm feeling so nervous about this, and oh yeah, I felt that way too, and here's what I do, so
which is different, right? In a lot of sports, obviously I don't know. Growing up playing hockey, you can't just there's not that the other team, you score, you win, you're trying to beat them, but you're to actually have somebody that you're competing against as a mentor or a ear, it's different.
I've been going back on memory lane a lot, just wondering.
Why? Because your daughter?
wondering, because of my daughter, but also just like trying. I think the older you get, the more you realize how the things you've done and how you didn't really appreciate them in the moment, like how great they were. And yeah, I've been reflecting back a lot. Like that was probably the best time of my life, was traveling around the world, doing the sport that I loved, making these really strong, long-lasting friendships, and chasing a dream. Like I felt such a great sense of purpose and fulfillment in every single day. And yeah, I was scared shitless a lot of the time because I was so afraid of making mistakes and I didn't want to lose this Olympic opportunity. But I also found this fire inside of me that I wanted to go after it. You know, I didn't shy away from it. And I feel like a completely different person now in my life at 39 than I was when I was 17. And a different in the way that I can't believe I was so young and I was so fierce. Like I wasn't afraid.
Why is that, you think? Is that how you're brought up? Is that just like, what is it that you can say that?
It's almost as if I was walking in the exact path that I was meant to be walking in at that time. And I just felt that. Like everything just felt so right, you know?
Which is just so, like, people chase that their whole lives to get to that point, you know, whether it's a career or whatever it is, they're looking for that moment. To find it at 17 is
and I think that's what makes transitioning away from sports so hard, is that you have actually experienced what it feels like in your life to feel 100% sense of purpose and fulfillment and satisfaction. And like waking up in the morning, having this big goal, like there's a momentum in that. And so that's hard to find in life outside of sport.
Totally. So then what happens? Like when you're chasing that feeling, you know, it's that high, you know, it's that sense of, you know, I'm doing the exact thing I'm made to do. When you try and put that against business or relationships or whatever, I'm guessing it's a tricky dance.
Yeah, it is a tricky dance. My friend Marnie McBean, who's a great Canadian Olympic rower, she told me when I retired and I was really having a hard time, she said, Kyle, you can't chase that same feeling. There's a different feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment, and it's not going to be found in sport, but it can be found in other places, in impacting your community and building a business, in, you know, trying to make other people's lives better. And yeah, I think that's where, for me now, that's where I do get the satisfaction and fulfillment, is being a really contributing member to my community. But the sport pursuit is this very selfish pursuit. It's very selfish. It's like literally everyone does everything for you. You know, you've got all these people that are trying to help you be at your best. Which isn't sustainable for life. That's not what real life is, but it's a pretty cool thing to like be standing there and just feeling. So purposeful is the only word I can really use. Yeah.
When you retired, did it take some time to adjust? Was there like, how old were you retired?
Yeah,
young, obviously.
I was young. Yeah, so I was 26 when I competed at my last Olympics in Beijing. And then right after those games, I came back to Calgary, and I knew I was done. It took me till May to kind of like make it formal, make it official.
How do you? What was the trigger that when you say like you knew you were done? What was it?
I didn't have any more goals.
No way.
Yeah, I had done everything I wanted to do. The one thing I didn't achieve, I didn't become a world champion. And I tried to use that as motivation, but it was like the fire kept going out. I didn't want to put chalk on my hands. I didn't want to be at the gym. I didn't want to run down the vault runway. I didn't want to swing around the high bar. I didn't want to tumble and feel the pounding of the landing anymore. I didn't want to wake up and make that. And I didn't know what the next thing was, but I just knew. And every athlete that I've talked to who's retired on their own terms, some athletes get injured and then they have to retire. And that's very difficult. But every athlete who has retired on their own terms always says, like, when you know, you just know. And it's very hard to describe the feeling, but it's like there's an emptiness, there's a void, but you're ready for the next thing.
But
you don't know what it is.
So it feels good to know that the decision you're about to make is the right one, but then looking for the next thing is intimidating, frightening, whatever word you want to use.
I call it the free fall. You're in the free fall. You're like, you've let go of the one trapeze and you want to grab the next one so desperately, and So many times I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to gymnastics. And then,
No way.
oh yeah.
Like, you retire and then 6 months later you're thinking
No, like every week, pretty
No
much.
way.
I'm like, oh, maybe I should go back and train. But I'm like, no, that's just me. That's the comfortable thing.
Yep.
Like I'm uncomfortable right now, and that's a familiar thing. And you miss your teammates, and you miss going to the gym, and you miss your coach, and you miss having the goal and the drive, and you miss feeling that sense of purpose, and you miss getting massages and having everyone around you doing everything for you, because that feels good.
Yep.
But you have to go through that tumultuous period. You have to go through it. Some athletes transition really quickly. They've got their next thing.
Yep.
For me, it was a 5-year period where I tried on a lot of things.
No way.
And a lot of things didn't fit. And then I finally decided to open a gym, and then that's what felt right.
Were you doing, after trying, did you do media for a bit?
Yeah. So I was doing commentary, and I was doing event hosting, and I was doing like co-hosting of TV shows, and I was I was doing a lot of stuff.
You were still in the scene.
I was still in the scene, most definitely. Yeah, I started a gymnastics festival at the University of Calgary in partnership with that gym. And yeah, there was lots of things that I was doing. Started my real estate license. I did my life coach training. I did my yoga teacher training. Like I was trying to do all these things, and none of them just felt right,
Were you just going after different ideas you had? The real estate that you're looking at people maybe doing, you're like, maybe I'm interested in that. I'll take a swing at it.
Yeah.
Did you know right away it wasn't?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Right. You try it on, and you're like, I'm kind of going to go through the motions here. I went back to school as well, to Mount Royal University, and I studied broadcasting. Like I learned to use camera and how to run cable and to do all the stuff. And I also studied business with a focus in entrepreneurship. So that's when, for me, I realized that being an entrepreneur was that was for me, because I love being in charge. I love being responsible for my own destiny. A corporate environment wasn't right for me. I went and did some interviews, and I sat with like a recruiter, and I was like, okay, so tell me about your work experience. And I'm like, oh God, this feels so wrong. This feels so wrong. And I wanted it so badly to feel right, but it didn't.
And just because that's the normal path for people?
Security, stability, salary, pension, benefits, all that stuff that I didn't have in my life. And it was really hard. Like I love the gigs. I love speaking. I love doing the TV. I love doing all that stuff, but it's hard in between when you're just waiting for the next thing. And my hustle game, I'm not good at self-promotion. I don't like it. It feels dirty to me. It didn't feel right sitting in those periods in between, like having nothing and then something and then nothing and something. I wanted something that felt like was an everyday, a constant, because I had that in sport.
Like the routine of your week schedule, your year schedule, like everything's just scheduled out, and you just have to show up and work.
Here's what's happening for the year. Let's get her done, right? And I didn't have that, and I was trying to find that. But it was after that meeting with a recruiter where I felt like, ugh, like, so it just didn't feel right.
Could you articulate that to somebody? When your friends are watching, you kind of figure this out and kind of go through the motions. Could you actually say, like, it just doesn't feel? Did you know why it wasn't fitting? Was it?
Well, the funny thing is that you pretend everything's okay to everybody else around you. And you do that because my job was to be the happy, smiley guy who was the motivator, right? So I couldn't tell people that I was sad. I couldn't tell people that I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I couldn't tell people that I didn't feel a sense of purpose. So I had to sit in a lot of that by myself, which was really, really depressing and really hard. And I was at a very low point, certainly. There was a few friends that I would talk to about it, but no one has that solution. Like everyone can tell you what you can do, but it never feels right unless it comes from within yourself.
Which takes a lot of energy to find that thing.
Right.
And I
to
think
make
you have
that
to go
commitment. Yeah. That was the scary part. I always wanted to open a gym, and it was on my list of things.
Always?
After the 2004 Olympics, my agent at the time, they said, okay, write down everything that you can imagine right now that we could do.
Was it 04 your last one?
08 was my last Olympics.
So
it was after the 2004 Olympics.
So you were in the Olympics for
3. Yeah.
98.
2000, 2004, 2008.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after that, now I've done commentary at the 2008 Olympics after I was done competing, and then the 2012, 16, and 20. So I've done more Olympics as a broadcaster now. So officially, the scales have tipped.
So 04, your agent's like...
After 04, they're like, just write down everything. So I was like, write a book, open a gymnastics center. Like I kind of looked to all my mentors around the world who had won gold medals. Like, what did they do? Well, a lot of them opened their own gyms. A lot of them got into media. A lot of them wrote books. So I just started writing down all these ideas. I wanted my own gymnastics meet, like that kind of stuff. And so I kept circling back to the opening a gym, but it's a big responsibility, right? It's a huge undertaking. I didn't know how to do that. But I think I got the confidence when I went back to school and studied business and focused in on that entrepreneurship.
Is that why you went to that program specifically? Because the gym thing was lurking?
I think so. Yeah. Subconsciously.
Yeah.
Right?
When you can look back now, right? You can connect some dots.
But I learned in that it wasn't just gymnastics that I could be good at. And I think that was my fear, was that I was really good at gymnastics, but I didn't trust myself that I was good at anything else outside of it. You know, I felt like a fraud in so many ways.
And now that where you are right now, you can look at all the lessons you had while you're an athlete, and a lot of them map right to a business, like dedication, routine, team, all of it, right? Right? But I guess when you're not quite sure, like when you can't make those connections, it can feel daunting.
And I have a lot of self-doubt. I think that a lot of people that are perfectionists or people that aspire to try to achieve really high level things have a lot of doubt.
Is that you, perfectionist with self-doubt? Like, is there?
Yeah, that's kind of like the intersection.
But is that I have no idea. This is like way above my pay grade. But people that gold medalists, high-end athletes, is that a common thread? Being a perfectionist with like a underlying...
Yes, and I think that that's what drives you, is you use fear of not being good as your motivation. Like every day you kind of wake up and it's not, I want to be great. It's like, I don't want to be bad. Like I got to be good, right? And I think it can be used for good things, but perfectionism is just, it's a dead end. Like I realized that very young in grade 7, grade 8. I try to reshape it to excellence. Like I want to be excellent at the things I do. I don't want to be mediocre. I don't want to just like open a gym. I want to open the best gym. I want to open the cleanest gym. I want to have my staff be the most engaged. Like that is driven within me.
Which is so different. Like that excellence to perfection, that slight change makes all the difference. Like that makes a lot of sense.
Right. But there's a fine line. Like, and sometimes you can spend 99% of your time trying to get that last 1% that actually isn't worth it. So that's where I have to catch myself. And that's where meditation and like doing journaling and stuff really helps me manage my perfectionist inside, because it's always there. But I have to catch myself when I'm on that train. It's the loop. It's the loop that I do. It's like, I got to get this, I got to do that. And it's like, whoa, right? Why am I doing this? This is not worth it. Good enough is good enough sometimes. You got to just wrap that up, put a little bow on it and walk away. But I got to catch myself in those moments, because I can be a bit obsessive, right? But I think that is from all of my friends that have won Olympic gold medals, they have a bit of obsession within them. And you put the blinders on and it's like you really peel back the layers and you're meticulous in your preparation.
It's really interesting, blinders. When somebody can have all the drive, that perfectionist drive to go after something, if that's not matched with actually a talent to achieve something, it seems like everyone can want to get somewhere, right? They can train and then they want to get to this level. But if you just don't have the DNA or the athleticism to actually do it, how does that all wash out? Like, the cliche thing of 0.001% of hockey players make the NHL. Whatever the percentage is super low. In your sport, I have no idea what it is to actually win a gold medal. I'm guessing it's very, very, very small. That, the self-awareness to know that you do have the DNA, you do have the gift, you do have the talent to get it, plus the perfectionist drive creates a gold medalist. It's just...
There's so many elements to the formula, right? And luck is a big part of it too. Like I was very lucky that I started at the Altador Club with Kelly Manjak as my coach, because he protected me and he let me be a part of the conversation. He let me be independent. Like I wouldn't have survived with so many other coaches because they would have seen my talent and they would have abused that. Like they would have made me do the full twisting double backs when I was 9 because I could do it. But Kelly was like, yeah, you can do that into the foam pit. And I'm not letting you do that in the competition because you're going to do the simple full twist and you're going to do it really nice because we can still get the result with that. So he protected me and nurtured me along the way. So there's all of those life, like there's no formula. Like I always think of musicians. How can someone that is so talented at singing not make it compared to someone who isn't as talented? Well, it's because that person just had the right connections, the right place at the right time, and that is life, you know? And you want to set yourself up like that intersection is like success is when opportunity meets luck in a way, right? Like and preparation. And I think that to me was why I was able to achieve success with my perfectionism, and because I put in the work. I didn't just rely on my talent. To a certain point I did.
It gets you to a certain point.
To a certain point. But I was also the kid when we would track our work and my coach would make us make a tick in a book, every skill that we did that was of value. So in gymnastics, like a handstand's not a value skill, but like a press to handstand is. So we would measure how many actual skills we were doing. And I would lap my teammates. I would be doing double the amount of work. And I'd sometimes, and I'm not proud of this, but I'd like kind of jump in front of them to take another turn because if you give me a task, I am going to go after it. That is what I do. If you put me on a Peloton bike, the instructor says go 60, I'm like 80. Like it's just, that's my DNA. That's my brain. But with that being said, there's two things that really pop in my mind. Number one, I try not to ever tell kids that you can be anything because you can't. Right. I can't be an NBA basketball player. I don't have the desire. I don't have the talent. I don't have the skill. I might say, oh, I want to, but I can't because I don't want it bad enough and I don't have the build. So I never tell kids that they can be anything that they want. I think that's setting them up for disaster. But I say, if you want something and you have a talent for it and you work really, really hard and you dedicate yourself to that goal and you make that your priority, and you're professional about it, then you have a greater chance of achieving success, right? And the second thing is that I think in our society, we place so much value on winning, but like winning an Olympic gold medal doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't, it's a moment. It's a moment. It's about finding joy in doing the things that you do. And I realize that so much more now that I'm done with gymnastics is I still like to do it, but I can't do the things that I did. I have no desire to go to the Olympics and win. But does that mean that I shouldn't do it? No. I still do gymnastics for fun because it's fun and I get joy from it. And I think of myself as an 80-year-old man a lot these days, reaching that half-life. When I'm 80, like I want to find so much joy in the things that I do. And I don't want to look back and say, I didn't try things and I didn't have fun when I was doing them because I was afraid to do them. Like I run races. I've done triathlons. I've done things like that. And like, I don't need to win those things. I do it because I like the training. I do it because I like the purpose. I do it because I like having a routine and something to work towards. I don't have to win the race, but that doesn't mean I'm a shitty person if I don't win it. Right? Yeah. Only one person gets to win. That doesn't make them the best. It makes them the best at that thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's so interesting hearing you talk about these things because just even like before I got on camera and I was talking to Katrina, just it's just the Olympic athletes and what you guys achieve, and just you say the exact same word. It's just a moment. It's so interesting to hear, which it makes a lot of sense because that's what it is.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And that moment is fleeting. The most important thing is, what do you do with that moment?
Yeah.
Right? How do you give back to your community? How do you make an impact in other people's lives? There's some Olympic athletes who win gold medals and think that the world owes them something.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be. I want to give to the world. Yeah. Right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I like dragged you away from that moment when you're at Mount Royal. So you're taking the entrepreneurial class, the business things, and all of a sudden some lights are coming on. You're like, I can put them things together here.
Yeah. Well, it was a really interesting experience because it was the one class that really stands out is called the entrepreneurial experience. And we went and we had to form teams. So we had to do all these activities. And we would start watching our teammates as if you're on Survivor, trying to pick your teams.
Yep.
How do people interact with each other? Who's got the ideas? How are people stepping up to this moment? And then you start forming your teams. And then you have like all these entrepreneurial challenges you have to overcome. Well, one of them, we had a week, and it was called Innovation Week. And every team, there was, I think, 8 classes and a bunch of teams within the class. So there was like probably 40 groups.
Yep.
And we all got a bag, and in the bag was an item. And with that item, we had to create value. And we got a bar of soap, a bar of ivory soap to be specific. And so my team, we opened the bag, and everyone opens their bag, and it's like, a bar of soap. Okay, how can we create value? So we iterated over a 24-hour period. We were like, okay, we're not going to come up with our idea. We're going to take 24 hours to just explore a bunch of ideas. Well, eventually, one of my teammates, her name is Kylie. She's so smart. She's like, found a video on the internet that if you take ivory soap and you put it in the microwave, it starts to expand. And we're like, what if we make like expanding soap? Oh, what if we make it into like cupcakes? What if we make soap cupcakes and then we sell them and we do a fundraiser? So we made 1,000 soap cupcakes.
No way.
We put them in mugs. We took like a cupcake piece of
So
paper,
random.
took a little piece of the soap, put it in the microwave, microwaved it. It grows and expands. We put like talcum powder and like baby powder and dyed things and put sprinkles and sparkles and all these things. And we called them sud cakes, and we sold them. And I phoned my friend at the farmer's market, who was the president at the time. And I said, do you have a space for us this weekend? We're doing a fundraiser. Can you grant us a space? He got us an awesome spot. We sold them for $5. We raised $1,500. Wash Your Hands for Wishes for Make-A-Wish Foundation. And it was during that time I realized, you know what? I can apply myself to anything. Like, this isn't just ingrained in me in sport. This is in life outside of sport. Like, I like to work hard. I can build on ideas. I like to apply myself to things. I can work with a team. I can sell things. Like, it just, all the pieces kind of sort of came together, and my confidence grew.
Yep.
Because for a while I was like, I'm nothing but a gymnast.
Like, literally, you're looking at your resume, you're like, I'm a gymnast.
I'm a gymnast.
Like, there's no, like, everyone else is kind of building a resume with work experience and doing whatever.
Right. I'm 26 years old. Yes, I've gone to 3 Olympics, and I've won an Olympic gold medal, and I've done lots of speaking and stuff, but I don't have a trust in myself that I can apply myself outside of sport. So yeah, that was kind of that was a catalyst. It was like, boom, I can do this. And then I went and covered the 2012 Olympic Games in London, and I got back, and I was trying to avoid gymnastics. I was trying to like do other things with the life coaching and with the yoga teacher training and with the real estate and like just all this stuff. I was trying
far
to
away as you can get.
Right, I'm like, man, let's become a stripper. I don't know. But then after covering the Olympics and the passion I had for it, and I got back, I was like, you know what? I love gymnastics. Like, this is why am I trying to be something else? Like, don't fight it, just embrace it.
Yep.
And let's get back to the community. And I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be in charge. I want to be the one designing this idea, and I want to be responsible for it. So like, let's do it. So I made the decision that I was going to open a gym, and I made one call to a friend. Her name's Crystal. And she was program director at the Altitude Gymnastics Club when I was there. And I said, hey, Crystal, I know you have little kids. I want to open a gym. Do you want to be involved? And she's like, yep, hell yeah. I said, great. And then I dove off the diving board. And that's what I always say is so many entrepreneurs stand on the edge and you bounce in your Speedo and you're looking down at the lapping water and you're thinking about how cold it might be or how much it might hurt if you hit it wrong. But at a certain point, you just have to dive off the fucking diving board and you just do it and you just commit and whatever. You figure out how to swim, but you got to trust that you're going to know that you'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah. And that trust piece, it took you a while to get to that trust piece. Like, the minute you got back from those games, you're like, okay, we're back. Or is it quick? Were you quick to like jump?
Yeah, it was like
land and then
basically I got back to Calgary and there was a couple weeks in there where I had to decompress. I did a little traveling actually after we went to Turkey and to Greece. Cool. And then got back and then I had really nothing on my calendar and I was kind of twiddling my thumbs and I'm like, all right, so what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Here I am again, another Olympics, another post-Olympic depression. What's going on? And then that's when I went and had a meeting with a recruiter thinking maybe I need to do a corporate gig. And after that meeting, I just was like, no, that was not, this is not for me. And then I walked through the door and I said to Kristen, I said, I'm opening a gym. It's happening. She's like, okay. And so then, you take that period of time and you start to resonate and it starts to build and you iterate and you get ideas and you start to see things.
Yep.
It's like when you buy, yellow punch buggy, all of a sudden, all you see is yellow punch buggies, right? So I started to see all the things everywhere. They were just coming at me and the ideas, and then the space became available. Like I looked at tons of spaces and then finally this one, we were in South Africa and it came up in my email and I was like, oh, that's it. That's the address. And I started repeating the address in my mind and the postal code, thinking of like Kyle Shewfelt Gymnastics, 104, 3442.
Right?
Yeah,
you could picture
right?
it all.
So I emailed my broker for commercial real estate and I said, like, I want to see the space. I'm in South Africa. Can you please set up an appointment for the day after I land?
What was it? What was the space before you got it?
It was NMAX. It was a big industrial warehouse stacked to the roof with electrical supplies. And I just knew the location was exactly where I wanted to be. The space was 11,389 square feet. That was exactly...
That's like a functional gym square footage?
Yeah, I wanted something between 10 and 12,000 square feet. I wanted frontage to Deerfoot or like a major roadway. I wanted to be accessible to the south communities. Like it just, all the pieces started to fall into place. And we walked into the space and instantly I was like, yep. And Kristen by trade is an interior designer and her sister came to that first meeting with me and I was like, what do you guys think? And they're like, yeah, we can turn this into a space. We should put bathrooms here. We should put a kitchen here. We should put a front desk here. And just, it's like when you walk in that house, you go and see 20 of them. And you finally walk in the one and you're like, yep, I can live here. Yeah.
And that was was that 2012 the deal was done?
That was 2013 in March that we found the space. And then we took over the space in August and we started renovations. And then we opened on October the 28th. 2013.
No way. So it's been a run.
It's been a run.
And over all these, it's a lot of years. And truthfully, I didn't know I drove Deerfoot for the last 7 years going water skiing. So I drive Deerfoot to go down like just by Okotoks. And all of a sudden I just looked and I saw your name up there.
Gymnastics,
blue and red. I was
right?
like, oh,
yeah,
this is big.
Well, we, when we first opened, we were on a very shoestring budget. Like I got some financing and investors and stuff, but you can't spend a lot of money when you're starting up. And so I got a little sign. And then when the gym started to achieve some success, I was like, I'm investing like $10,000 into a giant sign that says gymnastics. So when people are driving down, you can't miss it.
I can't miss it.
Yeah.
How did you, as soon as you said that, how did you start building the business? Obviously your name had a lot of weight in the community. When you turn the lights on and say, I'm doing a gym, do people just come find you or did you have to hustle and kind of figure some things out?
Yeah, we had to do some hustling for sure. I have a friend, his name's Chris Dornan, and he does a lot of PR for athletes and different sports associations. And so Chris, I reached out to him and he said, hey, I'm opening a gym. Can we work together and can you help? So the day I got the keys for the facility, we had media come and I had a bunch of kids, a bunch of my friends' kids, and my nephew and my cousin, and like some little
people,
some kids.
Warm bodies.
So we were in this, we were in this empty warehouse, and the media came, and it was like, this is going to become Kyle Shewfelt Gymnastics, and so, we had to work hard. Like, I wasn't sleeping. Like I think every entrepreneur who's in startup will say they barely sleep. I slept with a notepad beside my bed because I would wake up constantly with ideas. My friend Lori, who God rest her soul, she's passed since, but she bought me this thing called Aqua Notes. So in the shower, it's waterproof paper and a waterproof pencil and suction cups.
No way.
So in the shower, when I was washing my hair, it was always the time that I would get the best ideas. And so then I had these Aqua Notes and I'd be writing notes and just dreaming. I was always dreaming and thinking of ways that we can make it better. And my creative mind was so high. And I loved that time of startup. And it was I was always feeling a step behind the 8 ball. There's always something more to do, but I was so motivated and driven. And it's amazing how your community shows up. On that day that we opened, a week before when the equipment got delivered, we had 2 trucks show up. And all of a sudden, like, my parents were there, and my Kristen's parents, and then my aunts and uncles, and then friends, and people who used to coach at other gyms, and then my realtor, and like all these people were just showing up to help build equipment. And it was I wanted so much control because I'm a very controlling person, like in terms of I have a vision and it needs to be a certain way.
Yep.
But at a certain point, I just had to look around. I'm like, okay, all these people,
Let 'em
they
loose.
are doing it. They're doing it. Like, I'm just going to go around and thank them because it's getting done.
Yeah.
Right.
When you said the no sleep in the ideas thing, I've been feeling that. Like I'm like 2 years into my thing, and I just, I find when I'm riding my bike in the mornings, I'm cruising around the reservoir, just going out for a big ride. I just like my mind just rolls, and the Aquanotes thing is very interesting.
Yeah.
Is there anything when you're exercising or training? Is there anything you use to kind of capture your thoughts? Do you have like a mic in on your watch that you can talk to or something?
Well, yeah. So back in 2011, 2012, when I was getting prepared for the Olympics, I was thinking of it all the time for my commentary. So I actually ran with like a voice recorder.
No way.
And so then I just talk, and I was training for a marathon, so I would do like
you were running,
like 4 hour long runs. I'm like blah 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 blah, like talking to myself on this recorder. But yeah, I use voice notes now a lot, or I'll talk to Siri. I'm like, hey Siri, like capture this. But yeah, for me, I have to extract it from my brain because I literally lose it in a second.
Yeah, totally.
So why right there.
What, like, is it because your mind's rolling and they're just on to the next thing?
So fast. Yes, this is where meditation comes in, right? Like to be present in that moment and realize that your thoughts. You have control of your thoughts.
Yep.
But yeah, when you're in the entrepreneurial startup phase and you're building and you're dreaming and I think that you're just in that creative space where things are just popping. It's fireworks inside of your mind. And so I think the most important thing is to capture it. And actually you look back, I've kept a lot of my notes. And I look back and I'm like, that was a dumb idea. But like, you just got to write it, right? Because it's the iteration. The best idea never starts at first. You never have the best idea right away. The best idea comes after you write out that first idea, and then you go, and then you put it into action and you realize, oh, that's not going to work. And then you shift and you change. And I think that to me is where I love being an entrepreneur, is in that place of, I know I'm going to get there. And I know I have the ability to figure it out. And I'm learning that more and more to trust myself.
That's the exact same, you might use different words, but that same energy, that's how you looked at your athletic career. Like it's very similar, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. I'll give you an example. This summer, we've transitioned at my facility over to a new online registration system because we changed our programming model from sessions, seasonal, to monthly. So it's just continuous monthly once you're in. And there's a lot of changes. And I said to my team, we were trying to go through the list and we were whiteboarding it out. And I said, okay, there's about 100 things that we are missing in this moment. And we don't know what those are. But I want us to trust in ourselves that when they come up, that we're a team and we're going to figure it out. And we are facing that. And instead of getting stressed about it, we just figure it out. So that's I think, something I'm pretty proud of. Yeah. Because I didn't trust that 10 years ago.
Which it's got to feel good now, right now. Like this phase you're in right now. So, that creative energy it takes to get this business off the ground is I'm feeling it now, right? It's fun to be in that space. Now you're into this, you're like way into it. What gets you going now? Is it still creativity because you're still growing and expanding and changing and moving? Or is there something else that's driving you?
I've realized that my brain has only enough capacity for either like administration, getting things done, or creativity. I can't do both at the same time. And my creative juices don't flow when I have a long list of things that actually are tangible, have to get done. So what gets me going is getting to the place where I have a very short list of things to get done, where I can start dreaming and building. Creative. What I love about my business is creating the culture and creating the brand and bringing people together and doing like the quality control. I love going through and vetting and looking at how we can be better. I think that is one of my strength sets as a business owner, is always peeling back the layers and saying there's something more we could be doing, or there's something less that we could be doing that would make us better. I really want to think of my business in every aspect that it could be turnkey. So anyone could come in. Like I always use the if I got hit by a bus analogy, but I want my business to be built to the place where anyone could come in take what I do
Yep.
and what my office manager does and my
Yep.
program director and a team lead and a coach and an administrator, and they could peel that back and they could do it based on what the system we've created. I'm a very system-minded person, and I'm a very customer experience-centric person.
Did you know that? Did
I
you know
didn't.
all these things?
I didn't know it.
You figured out.
The first day we opened, I didn't know how to use a Moneris machine. Someone was like, "I'd like to buy something." I'm like, "Okay, I don't know how to use this thing." So I had to ask my office manager. She's like, "What? You don't know how to?" I'm like, "No, I don't know how to use it. I've never worked anywhere. What? Right? Like I didn't work at Starbucks. I'm sorry. I should have. I hire people who work at Starbucks in a heartbeat.
Just because they're training the brand customer service.
Brand, customer service, they know how to deal with people.
Yep.
They know how to manage multiple things at the same time.
Yep.
Every single person I've hired that's worked at Starbucks is a person that excels. It's,
So their training program is dialed in.
it's dialed in 100%. But yeah, I did not know in myself that I was a customer experience person. Like, I think this is so weird, but when I go to restaurants, I hold the utensils.
Yep.
When I went to restaurants before the pandemic, getting back into it now, but I hold the fork and I'm like, I feel the weight of it. And I'm like, ooh, like this is a little light or this is a little heavy. Like, I think that in my future could be a role, is like holding the cups and holding the things and looking at the place settings and like, what does the vibe feel? What's the sight? What's the sound? What's the smell? What's the lighting? Like, I love that stuff.
Presence, like what you feel in that moment.
What does that experience make a person feel?
Which is, it's you can see you come alive because that could be a thing, but it maps back to exactly the way I started this whole thing. Like, how do you remember that exact moment? You're taking the same thing that you did years ago and now just applying it. You know, you can see it in a.
You know how music can sometimes, like, you hear a song.
Oh God.
And it brings you back. Yeah, of course you do, right? Right.
That one I definitely understand.
Yeah, but that can literally bring your senses back to a moment, and I love that.
How the brand and the culture around your gym, obviously there's things in the news that have been flying around in your sport. I'm guessing the team you've built, you kind of set the foundation with how this place is going to operate and what it feels like.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've realized through my 8 years of owning this business is that I can kind of create the vision for what the culture is, but I don't get to decide it. Because you can't force people. You can't force culture. Culture has to grow. And so one thing I do every year with my team is we have a team meeting and I ask them what they want to be. Who do we want to be as a team? How do we want to hold each other accountable? What experience do we want to give our customers?
What made you go that way?
Well,
for not working anywhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, to have that kind of thought process
I read a lot of books and I have a lot of great mentors, but also I realize that I am such a controlling person that our meetings were me telling people what to do and what not to do. And I realized that wasn't resonating and that people were tuning out and that created resentment and that people were afraid of making mistakes because they were afraid of me being mad because they didn't live up to what I told them they had to do. So yeah, through just talking to some of my mentors, I do a lot of walks and talks with people that I really love and respect. People that have achieved great things in business and in sport and whatever. And I
literally go for a walk and talk?
I don't go for coffees. I go for walks.
Dude, I'm glad you said that. I don't drink coffee and everyone wants to go for a coffee.
Yeah. I'm like, no, we can pick up a coffee and then we're going to walk around the neighborhood.
I'm going to steal that idea.
Yeah.
One.
Walk and talk.
And number two, do you record those conversations?
I don't, but I always remember them much more than I would just sitting and having a coffee. Because I remember the houses that we walked past and the dog and the person and I'm really like, the experience to me is how moments stick. And so the walks and talks.
Dude, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's really good. It's super valuable. And then you also get your exercise in. And like a body in motion is like a body that is healthy, right? So,
man,
but through some of those mentor conversations that I've had, like, you have to give ownership to your team in order for them to be great. You can't tell someone to be great. They won't. And it goes back to my gymnastics career. If my coach told me to be great, I would be pissed off at him and resent him. I'd be like, no, I don't want to do that because you're telling me. It's like that parent-teenager relationship. But when my coach would say, how great do you want to be? I would tell him, and how can I help you get there? And I tell him what I need. And then that let me take ownership of it. So I say the same thing to my team. And a big thing is the accountability. You know, we want to all be engaged in the warm-up, if someone isn't, what do we say to them so it's not awkward?
Yep.
Right? And every year it changes. One year the keyword was bananas. If someone's not doing the work, you're like, hey, dude, you're being bananas. And then they're like, and then it's funny, and then they get to work.
Yep.
Because it's always awkward to go and talk to a
Yep.
teammate and say, hey, why are you sitting? Like, you're not pulling your weight. That's awkward. So, but we try to work that through and figure it out. And every year changes because every year we have new staff and
Different energy.
yeah, exactly.
Are you still coaching? Are you actually on the floor and do your thing?
So I don't coach. I coach one group
Yep.
Monday nights. I coach my adult gymnastics group.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do adult gymnastics and conditioning, and I actually partake in the class with them. So it's very, very fun.
That's cool.
And then I don't coach a specific kids group. I float around, and I try to be there at least once every evening and every weekend throughout like every kind of quarter. Because I've got a lot of other things going on as well. But
is it important to do that so you have a sense of the vibe in your facility?
Yes.
Just so you have a finger on the pulse and you kind of know what's going on?
Yeah.
And I'm sure when you're in your facility, there's a different vibe to it.
Well,
like there's a reason your name's on the giant on the building, and when you walk in that in that space,
one of my goals, Jeff, as a business owner, is to make my business run without me there.
Yep.
And that it would run with the same quality, and that everyone would live up to the same expectation that they have for each other and themselves without me being there to be the watchdog. You know, I think maybe things shift a little bit.
I just feel like, you will into a gym. I feel like there's a different tone that happens. Like,
maybe, yeah. I think that the energy maybe rises a bit more.
Totally.
But I always tell my team, like, we are the energy. Like, we set the standard. We set the example. If our energy is low, then the rest of the kids are going to be flat. So we have to bring it, no matter what happened in our day. And that's one of the big things that we talk about is kind of our brand and our motto. And it's not written anywhere, but it's like, we want to be the best part of the day for the kid, for the parent, and for the coach. So a lot of my staff, they have other jobs. They're working in the energy industry, or they're teachers, or they are students, or whatever it is. But no matter what happened in the day, I want them to come to the gym, let it go, and make this the best part of their day. If they do that, it's going to be the best part of the kids' day. Yeah. If it's the best part of the kids' day, it's going to be the best part of the parents' day.
So cool, man. It's such a long-term vision, It's just, instead of just looking at dollar and cents, transactional.
Right.
It's just like educating your team or building a foundation like that is a different.
I look at financial statements. I'm accountable to some people, but I've learned to trust that good things happen and money flows when you have good intention.
Yeah.
People want to be a part of a place that makes them feel valued.
Makes so much sense. It is for that to be the driver is it's a unique way to look at it. It's the right way to look at it, but it takes some courage to go down that path versus transactional.
Yeah. During the pandemic, I certainly focused a bit more on the finances. That was really tough. Like, not having revenue coming in, but still having to pay rent and insurance and keep good staff on. And like that's when I really was looking at the numbers and crunching. And that got that got scary, certainly. And we saw lots of businesses in the city not be able to survive. But I think that we tried to do the right things as well. One of the big things that we tried to do was give refunds to families, because there were so many facilities that were just doing credits. And for us, I put myself in the shoes of my parent. Like, if my daughter's doing an activity, I would have an expectation that the facility would give us a refund back, And so we did that. And I think that has turned around into something good.
People remember that.
People remember that, and they trust you.
Yep.
Right?
You're doing the right thing.
That we're doing the right thing. And we don't. Yeah.
It's good.
I'm PTSD, man.
I can't imagine the last 18 months.
If you say the word pivot, I'm going to punch your face.
I know you're a super busy dude, so I want to be cognizant of your time. So there's only one question I ask the guest. When I say Calgary, where does your head go?
When you say Calgary, I think of opportunity and I think of community. I think Calgary, I've traveled the world. Calgary it's a community where people help each other, where people are kind and people are friendly, and where you can there's an opportunity here to make something big and to make a big impact.
And you can feel it, hey? Like I know you've been around the world multiple times, and it's that different. Like I've never been anywhere else. This is my home. This is all I know. But there's
every time I land in Calgary, it just feels safe. It feels secure. It feels open. It feels vast. It feels kind, familiar, and the people here you look at each other in the eye and you say hi, and you can have a random conversation with a stranger at a grocery store and it's not weird. You know, if you go other places in the world, people, and I'm the guy that talks to strangers. And my mom, you tell kids not to, but I love talking to people. I love learning their stories, and Calgary is a place with people that have a lot of cool stories.
Well, yeah. Obviously, right? This is why this whole damn show is spun up, because I know there's a lot of cool characters around. This was amazing. This was really cool to sit down with you. My last memory of you, well, there's a couple. The one was at Cowie's house party. You were doing like flips on a trampoline, and we were hanging out around the hot tub. And to actually sit down and hear your story has been really cool. And it'll be fun to watch what you get up to the next, 20 years. So
awesome.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.